What's up, folks? EP098 today. Let's get to it. How does bicep tendon reattachment surgery work? Is this a modern medical miracle? Well, I kind of think all of modern medicine is a bit miraculous compared to just cutting people's limbs off back in the dark ages. That said, you could probably actually Google this and find a surgeon demonstrating the surgery on a video. But there's a lot of different ways they can do it. They can take a graft from one of your tendons that's healthy that you don't use very much. There's one in the wrist. They can take a tendon graft from a cadaver, so like a dead body. But in my case, they didn't have to do any of that. My tendon didn't calcify or ball up, so they just popped the rest that was still attached and then sewed it back to a pin. What does your current split and exercise selection look like? You're looking at it. I post my full workouts on these Q&As every time. There's no hidden exercises. There's no hidden anything. I do a full body split. I train every 48 hours, so 7 times every 2 weeks. Generally, I do 1 exercise and 1 set per muscle group because I train it so frequently that more than that is not needed. I'm going to do the same thing again in 48 hours anyway. So full body every 48 hours. When should we add or remove sets from a program? You should add sets to a program when your performance is stagnating on a given lift, meaning that for 2 to 4 sessions in a row, you've had similar or the exact same performance with a certain weight, getting the same number of reps every single time. You should remove volume or add recovery or improve SFR or deload when you are actively regressing, meaning that you are actively losing reps across multiple workouts, or you've lost 2 or more reps with a similar weight. How long should one cut and bulk for maximum gains? God, I hate these questions. You should never cut if you want maximum gains. The sumo wrestlers have more lean body mass than powerlifters and football players. Strong men are the strongest strength athletes. Look at Eddie Hall when he was 200 kilos or 440 pounds body weight. He deadlifted 500 kilos. So if you want maximum gains, never diet or diet as little as possible. Is Maingaining possible? Yes, it's absolutely possible. If you are new to proper training, new to proper nutrition, new to using drugs, that makes it more likely that you can maintain. It's also more likely if you have perfect sleep, perfect nutrition, and you're absolutely killing your training and setting tons of PRs. That all makes it more likely. But should you maintain? No, because it's less efficient than cutting and bulking. It will take you longer to gain the same amount of muscle. And here's the other problem. If you aren't new to any of those things and you aren't perfect with your training, nutrition, and sleep, you're very likely to just maintain instead of maintain, meaning that you make absolutely no progress whatsoever and you just stay stuck in place. It's not worth the risk. If you increase volume but rate of progressive overload stays the same, does that mean adding the volume was not worth it? Not necessarily, because performance is determined by 2 factors, fitness and fatigue, and it's possible that by adding a set, you've increased the rate of fatigue accumulation and the rate that your underlying fitness is improving at. And once you go to deload, you'll see bigger gains than if you hadn't added the set. Now, that said, if it's truly a neutral addition, yes, it wasn't worth it because you've got additional central fatigue for no local muscular benefit. There's a bit more nuance, but that's a fair summary. Are there ways to minimize fat gain on a bulk? Yes, but it's nothing that people want to hear about. It's not carb cycling. It's not adding cardio. The main way to minimize fat gain on a bulk is to do everything in your process correctly. Manage stress, do things like meditate, journal your thoughts so you're not worried all the time. Get 8 to 10 hours of sleep every single night. Tons of literature supports sleep as improving body composition in both surpluses and deficits. 3, absolutely nail your training so that you're setting big PRs on a regular basis. That's going to make it more likely that any surplus is going towards actual muscle gain. And last but not least is make sure you don't gain weight too fast. If you're gaining much more than about a pound a week, unless you're a rank beginner or someone who's on their first steroid cycle, you're very likely just getting fat. And most people should gain a little slower than that even then. What are the main benefits of cardio on a bulk? The main benefits of cardio in general are improvements to health markers. This doesn't matter if you're natural or enhanced. Doing cardio is going to improve insulin sensitivity. It's going to lower blood pressure. It's going to lower your resting heart rate. It's going to improve your triglyceride panel, make your cholesterol numbers better. Now, there are some other ancillary benefits, like it can potentially improve your appetite and give you a bare minimum of work capacity to recover better from training. What is the best assistance exercise for deadlifts if I struggle from the floor? If you struggle to break the bar from the floor, there's only one problem. You have weak quads. That's it. The end. The first inch or two of the range of motion is literally all leg drive. So if you can't get that done without your hip shooting back and your spine rounding, you have weak quads. Now, the problem is people will say, well, do deficit deadlifts, but that doesn't usually work because most people will just round their back even more when they do a deficit deadlift rather than accommodating the extra range of motion by pushing their knees forward. So the most specific variation that you can do, in my opinion, is deficit deadlifts, but with an Olympic lifting shoe that forces your knees forward more. And other than that, you need to do quad assistance work. So hack squats, leg presses, and even leg extensions. Now, those aren't going to be specific, but it will give you bigger quads, and bigger quads can be trained to be stronger quads in specific motions. Are hip thrusts a good substitute for RDLs? No, they don't even train the same muscles. So hip thrusts are going to be a lot of glute with a little bit of quad, depending on how low you go in the movement. Like if your knees pull backward and you get a lot of knee flexion, there'll be some quad in there. RDLs train the glutes, hamstrings, and lower back. In my opinion, hip thrusts are only good for one thing, and that is growing the glutes. They train end range hip extension, which is never going to be the limiting factor on a squat or a deadlift. So they don't really carry over to anything, in my opinion. All they do is make your ass bigger. So if that's what you want, then do them. Otherwise, no. Should one train if they are a little sick? So there's a couple things that I want to cover here, but the first one is if you are potentially contagious with some kind of flu that could get worse, don't train in a public gym unless you're going to go out of your way to like cover your mouth and try to get on people as little as possible, because it's just a dick move to get other people sick. Like when I get sick and I have like 5 days of hacking up, I would really wish that the person that gave that to me just stayed home. That said, if you stay home every time you have a tiny sniffle, you're going to miss like 8 weeks of training a year. So you're going to have to make a judgment call on when you train through it and when you don't. Symptoms below the neck are a no-go. When one movement is stagnant, does it make more sense to rotate it out or to add volume? Forget about specific solutions. Whenever you have a movement that is stuck, you should try to get it unstuck with programming. And in general, you should look at rotating movements out as the last resort. Because what can happen, and this has happened to me before, primarily because of rotating movements too often due to joint pain, is that you just recycle through neural gains and don't gain actually new tissue. Keep movements in. Thoughts on door-to-door selling? I mean, my thoughts are so far that this is a lazy question and that door-to-door selling is for people who are absolute savages with relentless work ethic and borderline sociopathic traits. Because, for example, I've done cold calling, but that was in an air-conditioned office. So yeah, you have people not answering and then hanging up, but you're physically comfortable. When you're door-to-door selling, you're gonna have people slamming the door in your face, calling you names, and you get the privilege of walking out in the hot sun while you're doing it. And my thoughts are that someone who asks a question this lazy probably doesn't have what it takes to succeed in that environment. But if you do, then I have no doubt that there are people who make a killing doing it, but you better have the right mentality because that shit's hard. Does the weight of the Smith machine bar itself change when you load some plates on it? No, that's physically impossible. The friction coefficient is going to be whatever it is, even with just the bar. So when you add some plates on there, it's just going to be whatever weight that the plates are, plus the weight of the bar. Would you recommend that someone follow the teamevilgsp healing peptide protocol for a bad strain? I would probably just try to train around it actually, rather than following that full protocol. You still have 3 other limbs. What do you think about eating a large meal 1 hour before bed? 700 calories. Bro, you just outed yourself here a little bit. I think me and you have very different ideas of what a large meal is. For example, in my post-workout meal today, I had 350 grams of jasmine rice, uncooked. Wait. So that's 1,400 calories of rice by itself, not including the meat, yogurt, potatoes, vegetables, fruit that I ate as well. But here's the thing. Typically having a really big meal before bed will interrupt your sleep to some degree. So I would actually recommend the last meal before bed being closer to medium in size. Is Madcow 5x5 a decent hypertrophy program if you add isolations like curls and calf raises? 1, yes. 2, when you're a late novice and early intermediate, the program that you pick just doesn't matter that much. Anything reasonably intelligent and designed by someone with 5 to 10 plus years of experience is gonna work pretty well. All you have to do to get it right is pick something that's actually designed for your goals. Now this would work, and it doesn't matter if it's Madcows or starting strength or whatever. This would work, but why? Why are you taking a strength program and trying to bastardize it into a hypertrophy program? You are a late novice and you're just going to make it worse because you don't know what you're doing. Just go pick any of the dozens of hypertrophy programs that have been created explicitly for the purpose of building muscle. What should I do as a 22-year-old if I just inherited $30,000? I don't have financial literacy. Look into buying a house if you have steady employment. Rent out the rooms. That alone will skyrocket your wealth accumulation compared to your peers. If you don't have steady employment and your life's not quite that settled yet, I would look at paying off any debt that you have that's above roughly 10% interest per year. And then whatever's left, if there's anything left, you can invest in an ETF that tracks the S&P 500. Alrighty, folks, that is the end of today's Q&A. So as always, if you like the Q&As, please like the video. If you'd like to become a supporter on Patreon, buy one of my ebooks, or work with me directly for coaching, there is links to all of that shiznit in the description box. I will be back on Monday to do this same damn thing all over again. So, see you on Monday, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.